Well, good evening, guys. Welcome to the latest installment of the REI RockStar Podcast. We have a very special guest, a really good friend of mine, Damon, on the call here today. Damon, how you doing, buddy?
I am good, man. Excited to chat with you and see what's going on, man.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard, but the world's on fire out there right now.
Well, I haven't left my house in like 30 days, so I have no clue, man. And I don't watch any of the news, so you
I
have to
wish
give me
I
all the
could say
updates
that
and
I'm
let me
not
know what the
watching
hell's
the
going
news,
on.
but I certainly am watching the news. Not to sound callous, I know there are people hurting, and we don't want to make light of the situation that there is a serious disease that is out there, and our hearts and prayers go out to the families that are directly physically affected are with the COVID-19 virus for sure. But holy smokes, man, sometimes the cure is worse than the actual disease, and I think that's what we're just about to see in real estate here. Before we get all that kind of stuff, though, I do want to mention just a couple of the sponsors of the REI RockStar Podcast. Really appreciate their support for not only our podcast, but our club, the Southside Investment Club here in St. Louis, Missouri. We got Rebecca Meyer with Security Title now. They just did a partnership and have way more locations to serve people here in St. Louis. Great title company, probably one of the most underutilized assets that the Southside Investment Club has. Rebecca Meyer will absolutely help you in all of your title needs. We have Michael Sewell with Sewell Law Firm for all of your LLC creation, real estate transactions and disputes, owner financing docs, all that kind of stuff, wealth of information, very good resource as well. Lawrence Hopkins with Longhorn Investments. They do a lot of deals and do a lot of support through people in the club. And all these people that I'm just talking about not only help out financially, but they do stuff behind the scenes and really help us function and help our membership. So we really do appreciate their support. Give them a call. They could absolutely add value to your business. So Damon, this isn't going to be too terribly long of a podcast, but we wanted to talk about what's happening in the real estate market. And I know that right before we got on, you said that you've done a couple of these other interviews with other people across the country. And at least here in St. Louis, we haven't seen the slowdown yet. Now, this week is the last week that we're able to see closings that are on the books that are probably pre-coronavirus shutdown kind of stuff.
Yeah.
After this week, we're going to start to see what really has been impacted. But so far, for the last 4 weeks, we have not seen a slowdown. There's still more homes that are selling than are hitting the market. Homes are selling. There are a little bit more price reductions, but it really hasn't had that big of an impact. Logistically, it has. Title companies are, not letting you come in, and lenders and appraisers and showings. I mean, there's some logistics things that have obviously changed, but we really haven't seen that much of an impact just yet here in St. Louis. That is likely going to change here. And you're saying that that's pretty much across the country, at least other people that you've been talking to.
Yeah, I mean, one of the advantages I have is, with REI Black Book, I've got users in pretty much every market across the country, doing lots of conference calls, lots of group calls, and I think the feedback so far has been pretty consistent. I think most folks are seeing the same thing that you're seeing here in St. Louis, Nick, and I'm here in St. Louis as well, so seeing the exact same thing, right? Not necessarily seeing a slowdown, but it's definitely changing the way you do business, right? I've seen some pictures of people signing contracts on the hood of cars. I've seen all kinds of stuff happening in that regards. But I think the real big thing to keep in mind is that all of the real estate data, right? The key performance indicators, if you will, as far as where the real estate market stood, were super healthy going into this. Ultimately where we're headed, recession, right? But the key difference, man, if you think about 2008 and now, the key difference here is real estate was the catalyst of the 2008, shutdown, right? There was just a ton of leading indicators that really told you, hey, look, the market is headed for a major correction in 2008. But that's not what we're facing here in 2020. And so I don't know that we're going to see that as big of an impact directly, unless, and what you kind of alluded to a little bit in the opening remarks was, hey, is the cure going to impact us more so than the actual virus itself? And that's certainly not to make light of the seriousness of the disease and everything else. I actually know some personal folks that have been infected, and it's certainly nothing you want, right? But make no mistake, whenever you start seeing numbers like 17 million people out of work, then that's one of the major indicators and drivers of real estate demand, and that is jobs, right? Without jobs and without affordability, then that's going to definitely have some impact. And so the question is really going to be is how quickly can we get open back up, and how quickly can the economy bounce? I mean, there's a lot of data out there, man, a lot of data. And I'll tell you, that's one of the things that I like following at the end of the day is the data. And it's certainly not, complete predictor of exactly what's going to be able to happen. But it's good to kind of keep your finger on that data. And so far, all the things that you just said, man, I think hold true, because, there's, if you've got vacant properties right now, like vacant retail properties, they're going like quick, right? Because there's not that much inventory, because there's so many retail agents and or normal retail sellers that aren't putting their properties on the market, right? And so now all of a sudden, as a real estate investor, if you've got that type of inventory and it's vacant, it's easier to show, things like that. Okay, then yeah, we're still seeing some a healthy real estate market. But the question that I don't think any of us can really answer is going to be, what does it look like in 6 months? What does it look like in even 90 days? What does that look like?
So there's a lot to unpack with what you just said. Before we do that, let's talk about, I didn't really give you a proper introduction. I just said you're my buddy Damon with REI Black Book. Assuming like everyone knows King Damon. But you are, you've got like you kind of said this, you have a unique perspective on this because you are connected in with tons of people all across the country.
Yeah.
Talk to us just really quickly about REI Black Book and what you do and how you help investors out.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, REI Black Book is a business management platform for real estate investors, right? So it helps you manage your business all the way from lead generation, lead nurturing, right? Your phone systems, your deal management, transaction management, all the way to dispositions. No matter if you're trying to wholesale the property, if you're landlord, or if you're retail flipping, lease optioning, doesn't matter. So it is a complete business management platform for real estate investors, and I've got thousands of users all across the country. And so the advantage point I get is that I kind of get an inside look at transactions and business and volume on a national level, right? So I get to see the activity, I can see the lead generation, I can see those things, and we still see that most of our users are still pushing go on marketing right now. And they're pushing go on lead generation, even though in the news you might see some of the bigger players, right? And I'm sure you've seen the headlines, Nick, right?
Yep.
All the iBuyer stuff, right? Whether it's Zillow or Open, all those iDoor buyers, right? All of those guys are kind of pulling back. And so at first glance, that's like really scary if you don't understand why they're pulling back and why they are different than probably the average listener of this podcast, right? And they're completely different models. First and foremost, they're the Titanic, right? They cannot turn quick enough to avoid the iceberg, right? So instead of full steam ahead, they're like, oh, completely stop this thing. And the other really important thing to understand is, where are they getting their money, right? What's the source of their capital? Which typically these guys are all backed by big Wall Street funds. And whenever the Wall Street comes in and takes the hit and takes the pounding like it did and has, then the funds that back them up have less buying power, all that stuff. So what I'm seeing, and seems to be pretty common across everybody that I talk to, is, all right, what do you do right now? So I'll tell you, this is, we're all having to change up a little bit, right? So our work environment's probably a little different.
Yeah, mine is my homeschool central behind me. You're seeing it. I'm homeschooling the kids during the day and trying to put real estate deals together at the same time. And let me tell you, I'm a bad teacher. I'm going to admit it. I would fire myself if I could. I love
You know
doing
what,
it though.
man?
It's really cool to be with my kids.
I'm in the same boat, so I've got 4 kids, right? You know this, but man, you and I were just kind of chatting about it, and I at a long time questioned whether I wanted to homeschool my kids, and now I know the answer, right? The answer is no, I don't want to. So
If I wasn't running a real estate business and doing all that kind of stuff, if I was retired, hell yeah, man. I'm like cutting out snowflakes with my kids and putting art projects together, teaching them how to play trumpet and stuff. It is fun, but I'm not that good at it.
yeah,
So
it's
I
just
think
difficult to balance it all, right? It's difficult to balance it all. So
precise.
I tell you what, I think that the common trends though, man, of things that I see real estate investors really focused on right now. I think everybody's finding that they probably do have a little bit more time on their hands, right? So maybe it's some of the social activities you were doing before. You can't go out and you're not doing those things. So a lot more time with the family for sure. But what are you doing? And I think the $1 million question is, and Nick, I go back to 2008 a lot in this because that's actually when I launched REI Black Book. Was in the middle of the freaking chaos, 12 years ago, which is crazy to me that it was 12 years ago. But that's when we really started getting REI Black Book up and running. And, to be candid, we were just naive enough to not know that we were supposed to stop, right? That we didn't know that we weren't supposed to be marketing and supposed to be doing these things during, a chaotic market. And we were just naive enough to keep going. And when I think about that now, and I go back and think about that time, we spent a lot of time working really hard, putting together, our marketing campaigns and all of that stuff. We put together the foundation in 2008, 2009, that 10 years later, 12 years later now, that has raked in millions of dollars of revenue since that time, right? So like we were literally getting started, flat broke, facing, bankruptcy, foreclosure, all of those horror stories that I'm sure you guys have probably heard from others. I raised my hand. Yep, I was facing all that same chaos in freaking 2008. But the work and the things that we put in place then was the foundation that generated millions for the next decade. And I can't help but think that this is the exact same opportunity for so many people listening to this podcast. It's like right now you're going to look back in 10 years and you're going to be in one of 3 places, right? You're going to be in one of 3 places. It's either you're going to be worse off than you are now, you're going to be right there status quo, or you're going to be better off, right? I mean, that's it. You got 3 choices, right? And I said choices.
I like it. It's a choice.
Yeah.
It really is a choice.
100%. Yeah, and that is the point, right? We have choices. And so if you make the right choice, then you get to pick where you want to be. Now, I jokingly said I turned off the news, and I have for the most part. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here telling you guys I'm not paying attention and I'm not being informed, but I certainly don't have CNN or Fox or MSNBC. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. I don't care, right? I don't have any of those channels running 24/7. I get my updates, I go read, I kind of get a little bit of baseline. But if I sit there and concentrated on that all day, every single day about all of the crap that's going on that is completely out of my control, then I'll tell you, the first thing you have to do in this chaos right now is you got to protect this. And that's easy to say when it just gets started, right? It's like, okay, first couple of weeks, yeah, we're going to get through this. All the optimism. And here we are. I don't even know how long anymore. Is it 3 weeks? Is it 4? I don't know how long you've been locked in and how long you've been in your basement. But for me, I think we've, since April 15th was when we really kind of shut things down at the office. I'm sorry, March 15th. So right. March 15th is when we shut down our office, everything else. So we're going on right at a month, I guess. And again, the optimism was high because like, okay, it's going to be temporary. But man, it really starts to get a little bit tougher the further you get into this thing to keep this thing protected. So the most important thing to me, man, is to recognize that you've got a choice and shut off the noise. That doesn't mean, be ignorant and be uninformed, be aware, but don't go just, throw yourself into this 24/7 news cycle that can really just tear away your motivation, right?
That's all mindset stuff. And you're 100% right. Like there is a lot of noise and there's probably more noise than there's ever been. And you're right. I mean, you got to know what's going on, but you at some point you just got to say, no way, I'm taking care of me, I'm taking care of my family, and I want to know what's going on, but I'm not going to be focused at it 100%. It is noise, and you got to channel that stuff out while still being informed, and there is a delicate balance on that. But again,
Yeah.
there is so much to unpack from what you were just saying. I'm going to try to ask several questions that all kind of pertain to the same answer.
Yeah.
Let's start off with some bad news. Every week it's getting worse and worse with the jobs. This is August, or this is April 16th that we're doing this. 22 million jobs total cumulative now that have been lost since America can't go to work. This is what is going to be the mess that's going to be cleaned up. How big of that mess is going to be determined on how quickly those people get hired back, period. Okay. Real estate market didn't cause this. The economy was chugging along just fine. So was real estate. However, 22 million jobs vanished out of thin air.
Yep.
This is going to be a big problem. This is going to be a big problem. But those are panic numbers.
Well, I think the question is this though, Nick, and here's the really hard part. Okay. So you don't want to come across as callous and like, hey, it doesn't matter, because those are 22 million people, and there's real people. There are real families behind every one of those that lost a job. Okay. And make no mistake about that. That is heartbreaking, and it's hard. And it's honestly, even when you say it, it's like, man, it's so hard to fathom 22 million people not knowing how to feed their families
in 1 month.
Right.
In 1 month. That's not, I mean, it would be bad news bears if we lost 10 million jobs in 1 year, but we've lost double that. Like in 2009, we lost 10 million jobs in 1 year, and it was just unfathomable. But this is 22 million in 1 month.
Here's the key though, because yes, it is a problem, but it doesn't have to be your problem. And even if you're one of those that may have lost your job and you may have been laid off or things like that, at the end of the day, the choice is still going to be yours. And are you going to be worse off right where you're at, or are you going to be better off? And so you get to make the choice. And so you could focus on that and say, yeah, all right, but you can't control that. That's beyond my control. That's beyond Damon's control as a human being. How do I impact 22 million people? I can't impact 22 million people, but I guarantee you this, I could probably go and help people transition that maybe has to downsize the home, maybe whatever, and help them avoid, foreclosure. And I can come in and I think subject to creative financing is going to be really important if you're not paying attention to that right now. So the question is, what do you do? 22 million people lost their job, but what do? Go freaking, you got to focus on what you can do, in which go educate yourself. If you're not educating yourself right now, then man, in 10 years, you're going to look back and say, okay, I missed the opportunity. Because every time in 2008, I remember this because I was one of the guys just getting started, and everybody always talks about these transfers of wealth that happens, and it's happening right now. And the question is, are you going to partake? Are you going to participate? And the choice is yours. So Nick, what I'm telling everybody to do right now, straight up, is like, hey, pull yourself up. Don't focus on what you can't control. Focus on what you can control. Right now is the absolute best time to educate yourself. You need to find a group, right? You need to find a tribe that you can surround yourself with, that continues to bring you up, and they're supporting you and the positivity, right? So what you do over at SSIC, man, and I know everybody's like, man, that's great when you can go have live meetings. Okay, well, guess what? That moved virtual. And so now how do I stay plugged into that group? How can I see what other people are doing, and how can I learn from them? How can I take advantage of the resources that Nick offers right through the club? So you got to learn and educate yourself. And then we got to step back and say, okay, I got to educate, but now I got to take actionable things. What can I do right now? And the truth of it is, there are a ton of people that are home right now. Obviously, we know that. There are people that are losing their jobs. There are people that are looking for plan B. There's still a lot of optimism, okay? You can look at the market right now, and there's still some optimism that we're going to get out of this thing, and it's going to bounce back quicker and things like that. But, there are still a ton of people that are sitting home right now, and they're wondering what to do if they can't go back to work, and how are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to provide their family? And what you can do for those people is be a solution. You can be a solution and you can help educate them. And right now you can nurture those relationships because they're out there looking for answers. So online lead generation activity, we're seeing AdWords up, we're seeing Facebook up, but well, here, let me clarify that too. When I say up, the opportunity is up because the cost of those to go advertise on those platforms is dramatically lower. In December of 2019, your average cost per click around the nation, all right, and it's higher and lower in some markets, okay, but average across the nation was $12.50 per click, okay. In March, that dropped to $4.50, okay. So that same click went from costing you $12.50 to $4.50, okay. So right now is a great opportunity to leverage and go take your market share. There a lot of these other big buyers, they've literally pulled out of the game, right? Zillows and iBuyers, they pulled out of the game. So now's your opportunity to go and really turn up the lead generation. And it's not the time to pump the brakes. And it's really easy to say that, and it's hard to do, but it's truth, man. You gotta push, you gotta be willing to push the gas pedal a little bit and to start generating these leads, right? Now, you said something else on the opening of the call though, Nick, and it was like, hey, everything's pretty good right now, but we're coming to the tail end of the coronavirus. Like now we're gonna start seeing transactions that were acquired during the midst, right? So that's gonna be interesting to really see and kind of pay attention to. But so I do think that that's gonna be impacted, right? Because just, the logistical stuff has changed of going and doing inspections and, some sellers don't want you to come in their house and, all this other stuff. So I think logistically, I can't imagine there's not going to be some impact. But the thing that I'm telling you is like, hey, look, go generate leads right now, but also start nurturing relationships. People are answering their phones more than ever, right? So you need to have your follow-up systems and things like that in place, right? Whether it's your website, your CRM, like your process for, from acquisitions to transaction management. It's time to get all of that stuff ironed out. Like this is the time to build your business systems and make sure that it's exactly what you want and it's ready to scale. And how do you figure out some of the other marketing strategies, right? I already mentioned two that are really hot right now: Google ads, Facebook ads. But there's another one that's been really hot, and that's driving for dollars, right? So, what do we drive for? Now, driving for dollars is one of probably the oldest lead gen strategies in real estate investing, right? It's just a simple concept of going out, driving through neighborhoods, and you want to go drive, and it depends upon your strategy. What is your strategy, right? I've got guys that are looking for pretty houses to build their rental portfolio or to do lease option type strategies, and then we've got other folks that are looking to wholesale or rehab, fix and flip, and do those things, and they're looking for, they're driving through pretty neighborhoods looking for the eyesore, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter. Any strategy can fit the driving for dollars practice. And, we're seeing a lot of people go back to that, sometimes just to get out of the damn house, right? So I can, and still
gas is a little bit cheaper than it was. Yeah, gas is way cheaper than it was.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. If you've got the right systems in place, you don't have to do the driving, right? Think about all of the bartenders, the waiters, the wait staff, all the service industries that have just completely been decimated. We just talked about it. There's 22 million people that are out of work, okay? Those folks are looking for stuff to do. In fact, I just talked with one of my students out of Utah, and he just launched his Driving for Dollars program yesterday. And what he's doing, again, with the right systems, with the right tools in place, you can have other people do the driving. He got 22 people signed up yesterday in the matter of 2 hours that are out driving, finding properties for him, right? And he just uses Profit Drive, simple little app. You tap the property and you give your drivers the app. They drive around, they tap the property, it goes into your portfolio. You can look at it and say, okay, do I want to move forward on this property or not, right? I mean, it's gone are the days of pen and paper and trying to scratch this out on sticky notes as you're driving around, right? So those are the things that I'm telling folks to do. Protect your mindset. Control what you can control, right? Get control. Take a look at your business systems. Right now is the time to make sure that the foundation is set, okay? I'm telling you from my own personal experience, I know 2008, 2009, I spent a lot of time working, sleepless nights, all those things, stress, the same situation, was facing foreclosure, was facing bankruptcy. I was in the mortgage business. Okay. So I totally lost my mortgage job. Like I went from making 6-figure income to zero. So like whenever I talk about being, understanding the stress and knowing exactly where a lot of people are today, I get it because I was there in 2008. But look, you got to protect the mindset. You got to set the foundation. That foundation for me catapulted me and literally has meant millions of dollars, probably 20 to 30 million dollars since 2008 because of the things that I did in 2008, 2009. So right now is the time to set up your foundation. That's probably your marketing systems, your CRM, your follow-up. The fortune is definitely in the follow-up, and understand. And if you're not great on the phone and you don't have good skills there, then call Nick. All right, Nick, I can't imagine you probably don't have some sort of coaching or training to help them on the sales skills, because right now is the time they need to be talking to people and help solve problems, right? Like there's tons of people that need creative solutions. And I mean, I know you teach that stuff. So
100%. And that stuff can be taught very easily, and there's definitely a method behind it. And with what my question was, I didn't even get through all of it because you saw where I was going with all the stuff that's happening. There's just a lot of opportunity that's going to happen. And the thing is people that put the brakes on now, or we're thinking about getting into real estate, and then all this stuff happens and like, oh, I'm going to wait. Why? My gosh, I'm not saying this is going to be a 2008 opportunity. Hopefully it's not that bad, but I guarantee you there's going to be more properties that I can buy cheaper than just 30 days ago. And the differences between 2008 and 2020 is so stark difference because we saw this coming immediately, right? As soon as people started getting laid off, we can say, oh, okay, we need to make adjustments, but there's going to be some really good opportunities here. The market peaked in 2006, and we didn't realize it until mid 2007.
Yep. Yeah.
And we were all caught with our pants down because we just, real estate's not going to go down.
Nobody was paying attention to the data. Right. Nobody was paying attention to the numbers, and the numbers were telling you, hey, look, inventory, and that's the same thing we need to be doing right now. And I'll tell you this, it's going to be real easy to have a pity party. And this is going to sound like, maybe I sound like a terrible human being right now, Nick, on this, but if you're one of the 22 million people and you're sitting there saying, I got to wait and oh me, oh my, guess what? Here's the deal. It absolutely sucks. And I know it because I was that person in 2008. Mm-hmm. But sitting there and not doing anything ain't going to change your situation because the world doesn't owe you nothing, right? You're not entitled to anything, right? So the only thing that's going to change is if you change it.
When did you turn into a grandpa?
What's that?
When did you turn into my grandpa?
Trust me, dude. This stuff is like, you know what, dude? I'm just telling you, man. I've talked to so many people, and it's so hard, man. You know what I hate about this damn virus, probably more than anything, is the crazy division that it's wedged even further in the country and in the people. That's what I hate more than anything.
Yeah, it really, so. Okay, so that, the wedge, the political, the infected, the millions of jobs, all that kind of stuff brings me to a conversation that I had with someone here in my neighborhood.
Yep.
Was walking their dog, and very affluent person, very intelligent, very well-to-do, freaking the frack out that real estate prices are in the tanker and all this kind of stuff. And in the back of my mind, two things are happening. One is awesome that people think that, because it's not true, first of all, but that's going to help us when we go out and buy properties, right? But also is what we really need to be looking at is our local numbers. And there's going to be some panic numbers that come out when median home sale prices go way down. And median home sale prices, just for an instance, it's going to go down because the jumbo loan market is in disarray right now. So home sale prices in that price range of 750 to $1 million plus are going to dramatically go down, and that's going to make median home sale prices take a dive. But median home sale prices is one of the biggest things that people, like, if you listen to the news, median home sale prices were up, median home sale prices were down. If you take a look at that and you say, oh my gosh, median home sale prices have done, and that's the only thing that you're looking at, then the entire nation is going to think that the real estate market's in the tank, when in fact that might be completely opposite. It just might be a segment of the market that's taking a beating right now,
100%.
where the rest of it's going pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing. I just talked to a guy out of where was he at? I think he was in Alabama. He just took a $200,000 property, and he just accepted a first day offer $10,000 over asking.
Yep.
Right. Like, why is that? Because right now the inventory, like, you have to pay attention to the numbers, right? And there's a handful of numbers that you got to be paying attention to, but the most important number right now that you got to understand is the absorption rate. Like, how much inventory do we have on the market? How many properties are typically in your local market? How many properties are selling in a 30-day basis? And then look at total number of listings, and then how many months of supply do you have, right? If you've got, 3 to 4 months, that's a pretty balanced market, right? If it's less than 3, then it's a seller's market. If it's all of a sudden, 6, 8, 9 months, then it is a buyer's market, right? So you just got to kind of pay attention to that data. And, frankly, for me, I don't care where it moves, because no matter where it moves, there's opportunity if you
100%.
educate and you have the knowledge, right?
So check it out. You're exact. That's almost precisely what I was getting to up until this point. Is in 2008, people were still buying and selling houses. 2009, people were still buying and selling houses. 2010, all the way up until today, people were still buying and selling houses. That all this really means is, us people that have been in the business for a long time, we were waiting for some sort of shift. We were waiting for newbies to be shaken out. We were waiting for more opportunities for us to buy cheaper houses and more of them, because it was getting tight and getting thin. And yes, it's great when we get a property and we can rehab it and put it on the market and sell it with 15 offers, 20% over list price, first day on the market. Oh, that's all great, but we're paying more for it, and labor's paying more, and we're still making less, right? So we weren't waiting for this virus. Let me be very clear. We weren't waiting for this kind of devastation. We were waiting for some sort of shift, right? And it's here. And if we were sitting in a bar and you were saying, hey Nick, what are you telling people to do right now? I would say pretty much what you've just said. Retool. Okay, you gotta know exactly what numbers to look for, market for new sellers, set up your systems, follow up with everyone that you've ever talked to about a house in the last 5 years, 10 years, whatever, because their situation might have changed. Follow up, like you said, is absolutely key. And proceed. Okay, now proceed with caution is what I'm telling people. And we're watching these numbers on a daily basis and on a weekly basis, and we're talking. Our little group here, what we do is we get together, and on our webinars, we've kind of halted our day-to-day training and just really focused on the deals that people are talking with the sellers and how to structure deals and what comps to use, pre-coronavirus, post-coronavirus, all this kind of stuff. And one of their homework assignments each week is they have to talk with agents, talk with lenders, talk with appraisers, talk with title companies, and bring those conversations to the group so that we can figure out what's really going on. What are people seeing out there beyond our small little group? Yeah. And so what we're seeing is lenders are lowering their LTV rates, like for hard money lenders and things like that. They're kind of having a little bit of pause.
Yep, they're going to contract
a little bit. Appraisers are being uber conservative right now. Just this week is when they kind of started doing that. Those are some things that we're going to have to combat right here. But again, I mean, all this really means is we're going to proceed. We're going to proceed with caution. We're going to try to buy stuff cheaper, and we are going to be ready for a potential onslaught of houses. There hasn't been a foreclosure in 30 days, and there likely won't be another foreclosure in 30 days. There's probably what, 100 to 130 each week.
Yeah, well,
And so,
that's something else that we do in St. Louis, right? We provide all the foreclosure property data,
right.
right? So that is another business. You subscribe, we provide you all the foreclosure. We let you know what's going to the courthouse, when, minimum bids. We do all that
Right.
stuff, and that whole thing is completely disrupted right now. But we anticipate, and again, guys, there's lagging indicators of this stuff. So 22 million people today lose their job. That doesn't mean that they just go into foreclosure. It means that, and this is,
In
if you
6
think through this
months.
logically, it's like,
Right.
how much do they have in savings? And the other thing too that's unprecedented is how much stimulus the government has really put in to kind of prop up the economy for a period of time. So all of a sudden they get $1,200, they get $2,400, they get $30. It depends upon how many kids they have, all of that stuff. So now all of a sudden that might buy them another month or two, right? So that might buy them another month, might buy them another 2 months, and then all of a sudden, then they miss a payment, then they miss another payment, then they miss another payment. Now all of a sudden they're 90 days down. Now all of a sudden, so we might be 6 to 12 months until we see the impact of the foreclosures, right?
Precisely.
So that's, yeah, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, real estate prices are going to drop tomorrow. No, they're not. But you got to pay attention to it, and you got to know how to navigate it. And the thing for me, I'm telling you, lenders are starting to contract, right? So they're starting to contract. They're tightening their guidelines. And in the old days, man, whenever I first met you, Nick, over 10 years ago, I was a mortgage guy. That was what I did, right? And inevitably, they're going to tighten the guidelines, right? Which then is going to, reduce your retail buyer pool, things of that nature. Okay, that's going to impact prices. I mean, you got a lot of moving parts here. But sincerely, I think the key here is you still get to make the choice of what you do every day. And it doesn't matter up, down, or sideways in real estate. If you're equipped with the right knowledge and the right tools, then you can absolutely succeed in any market. Okay.
100%. I mean, and we're kind of doing this with every question. Is there's bad news and there's good news, and it ends up it smells opportunity to me for sure.
Yep. So hey, Nick, you said something though, man, that I'd love to share with everybody, because this is probably going to be, I think I counted it, I may have counted wrong, but it's going to be probably the most impactful 8 words that I could give anybody right now. And it is a simple email, a simple text message, because you said, hey, follow up with everybody. So you need to go to your dead lead list, everybody that you've talked to in the last 6 to 12 months at least, everybody, and you need to send out one simple email or one simple text, however your communication was previously. And it's like, are you still interested in selling your house? Right? However many that is, 8. Okay? Those 8 words. And listen to me, you're going to be tempted to try to add a bunch of other stuff to it, right? You want to add, hey, during this time of COVID-19, man, it's crazy. Are you still interested in selling your house? Nope, don't do any of that. Just a simple 8 words that just says, hey, are you still interested in selling your house? And step back and watch the responses you get and how many dead leads you get revived. We just did this with my little tribe. And I just had an investor do his first deal, just got his first property under contract ever, just because he sent out that simple email, right?
100%.
So revive dead leads.
Absolutely. And that's so what should I be doing right now to kind of wrap all this up? And we've said this over and over so far, but proceed with caution, follow up with sellers, set up your systems, retool, educate yourself in areas maybe that you don't know. Like if you don't know how to do a short sale, start learning, right? If you don't know how to do subject to deals, start learning. If you don't know how to do creative or seller financing or lease options, start learning. Be plugged in with people that know how to do that kind of stuff and have guidance, and through people that have been through something like this before, right?
Yep.
Because I think at the end of the day, the good news on all this stuff is there's going to be a lot of opportunity. How much opportunity depends on how quickly we hire those people back, right? And how quickly the economy gets back together. But there's no doubt about it in my mind right now. There is a mess that's going to need to be cleaned up. And if you know how to clean it up, if you know how to really have an impact on people and help them, because there's going to be a lot of people that need it, you will be able to put a lot of dollars in your bank account by able to do that. And you know, don't stop marketing. In fact, start marketing more right now. Profit drive, driving for dollars, that is a slam dunk right now. What people, why you wouldn't be doing that? Oh my gosh, I don't know, right? That is an unbelievable thing. And I think if someone wants to do that, we'll put a link up on the screen and they can real quickly go to do that, and you can
Sure.
all the information's right there on how to get signed up for that and enrolled in that. That's awesome. But set up your systems, market for new sellers, follow up with everything, proceed with caution, be mindful of the fact that you're gonna have potentially lower LTVs from lenders. Appraisers are going to get a little bit crazier. And even if you're wholesaling, that affects you because you're likely selling to people that are buying with those lending institutions. So it is going to start to rear its ugly head right now, those kind of market conditions. So be mindful of all that stuff. Plug in, find your buyers and that are buying, and make sure that they're still buying and what they're looking for, and if they're adjusting their numbers, what if you're a wholesaler. Also,
hey, one other thing on your buyers. Okay,
yeah.
I just was talking to Andy. He's out of Phoenix, Arizona. He's the guy. I mean, he's doing 15-20 deals. He actually gave me a good tip the other day. He's like, look, I've called every one of my buyers. Again, it's not having 100,000 people on your buyers list. It's who are the 5 to 10 people that are buying your properties, and it's call them and verify their capital source, right? So some of them still have private money, and some of them are still buying. Okay, if they're using different hard money, then maybe their terms have changed. So again, it's relationship game, and it's an opportunity. Just pick up the phone, call your buyers, and have a simple conversation and talk to them a little bit about their capital sources, so that you have confidence. Because the last thing you want to do right now is put a property out there, get it tied up, and then the buyer realizes that they can't really get the funding they need, and the deal falls through. And so make sure you verify the capital source.
Which is the last thing here that I'm telling people to do is reach out to your lending institutions and make sure that if there's any changes. If you're using private funds, awesome, ask for more, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities coming up. Connect back in with private lenders that maybe were interested a few months ago or a year or so ago, and now they might be a little bit more excited to do that because their portfolios in the stock market went down, and maybe they want a fixed high rate of return versus the uncertainty in the stock market. There's all kinds of stuff that we can be doing as we are ready to pounce as opportunities come up. And just kind of going back to what you said at the beginning, you can either choose to participate in this or you can choose not to. And for me, it's kind of like America jumped out of a big Boeing 747 all at once, and we're just hoping and praying that someone packed our parachutes correctly, and we know we're going to land, we know we're going to get through this, and we maybe don't know what state we're going to land in, but or how close to a grocery store we're going to land in, but we're going to get through this, and it's really just how quickly and how much of an opportunity and how big of a mess that we have to clean up.
Well, here's something really interesting, and I'm going to mess this up probably because I don't know if it's 47 or 57. I forget which one it is, but I saw something the other day, and it was like, this is like let's just say 47, right? Because if it's 50, or if I say 57, it's really 47. People are going to yell at me, right? But this is like the 47th recession that our country has been through.
Mm-hmm.
The 47th. Okay, so we've been here, we've done that. Now, granted, is this a little bit unprecedented, a little bit thing? Yeah, but this too shall pass, right? We will get through this. We will get through it. And here's the only thing I'm going to tell you. Look, Nick, I love your analogy of jumping out of a plane, but here's the deal. I'm going to pack my own chute. You know what I'm saying? I'm I'm not going to go to the government handout line and say, hey, give me a chute and jump out of the plane and wonder if they, you know what I mean?
You're
Go crack
you're
your own
you're
chute.
you're reading into my analogy too much. You're reading into it. As a nation, we kind of jumped off a cliff, right? Or we're hopefully, maybe I need to come up with a better analogy for
I'm
you,
just
but
messing with you, man. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but that's what like, I agree, dude. Yes, it's insane where we're at. It is absolutely insane. But I think what you keep saying, man, is still rings true. It's do
right,
you choose to participate? And it's do you choose to participate in the economy? Meaning, you know, are you going to buy into that you have to go into a recession? Do you choose to participate? Do you choose to participate into the negative? You know, and honestly, it's such a swing. You know, you got folks. I mean, it really is crazy that there's folks that think that this virus was, you know, a complete hoax, that it doesn't even exist. There's people that think that like literally the world's ending. I mean, it's so far extreme, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like it's where it always is, right? And
right.
so, you know, just step back. You know, we don't have to focus on jumping over the cliff or anything like that. It's like, what can you control? Make the choice.
And
Pack
you
your own
can
shoes.
control learning how to do something that you haven't learned how to do before. You can control your activities. You can control your mindset. You can control what numbers you're looking at and looking at the supply and demand. One thing we haven't mentioned here that hopefully, you know, again, whether you like Trump or not is not the
Yeah.
point of this podcast whatsoever. But he wants to get reelected, and he knows that if there's 22 million or 30 million or any millions of jobs that are unemployment when it comes election time, that his chances are going to be slim. So he wants to get people back to work. And I think as a general sense, most of government wants to get people back to work. So they're going to try to do whatever they possibly can to lessen the effects of the people out of work and get people back to work. But one of the things we haven't mentioned
Yeah.
is another thing that they're going to be doing, which they've already done, is rates for people to buy homes are going to be unreal low. I mean, we've been unreal low for the last couple years, and
Yeah. It's
really
like,
this
how much lower
decade
can
we've
they
been
go?
low. What's that?
I was like, yeah, I know, but like, I mean, I agree with you. Like, but you know, in the practical sense, how much lower can they go? I mean, we've had
Well,
rates
even
in
if
the
they
high
stay,
twos, you
as
know?
long as they stay low, right? We're seeing
Right.
unreal low rates, and pretty much this decade we've seen unreal low rates.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But they're going to keep them low, and that's going to be good. I, you know, last week for our SSIC online meeting, what we did is we had kind of our state of the market address, and my buddy Craig Smith did that and did a really good job on it. And basically, you know, if we start hiring these people back relatively quickly, the impact of the real estate market price wise is not going to be that big, because what's really going to happen is we had a strong demand for housing here in St. Louis, and
100%.
okay, we're gonna have 2 months of pent up demand, 3 months, 4 months, however long this lasts of pent up demand. We're only a month into it right now. And you're gonna see a massive onslaught of people wanting to buy houses as we start to come out of this thing, and the supply is still low. Look for supply. You're right, the absorption rate. I used to talk about that at our events all the time, and it was so boring at the time that people started to tune out and fall asleep. So I stopped talking about it.
But it's important, right?
But it's super important, you know, looking at the absorption rate, looking and knowing how to calculate that, looking at the supply and demand, looking at where rates are, looking at how quickly we hire these people back. Those are the things that we need to be looking at, knowing that the media is going to send their panic numbers out and all that kind of stuff. Don't buy into that. Look at the numbers, know what they are, because they're trying to sell newspapers and clicks. We are trying to buy houses. We need to know what those things are. Damon, you know, we covered a lot of stuff here today, and I think at the end of the day, we do have a choice. We have a choice to do something about our situation, because no one's going to do it for us. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be an opportunity for us to buy properties, more of them, cheaper than we have ever before in the last 30 days. And there's let's choose to do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Make the choice. And you know what? Pay attention to the data. Stay tuned. Pay attention to the data, not the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to the data, not the headlines. And because here's an interesting fact. 3 out of the last 5 recessions, home prices have actually appreciated and did not decline. So everybody's saying, oh my gosh, recession, and that means real estate prices drop. Not necessarily. There are so many variables and so many important factors there. And you know what, if Craig gave you guys the State of the Union address for St. Louis, I'm telling you right now, go listen to that. Craig's one of the sharpest minds out there. Listen to that data so that you understand what data, and if you're not in the St. Louis market, just go understand how he broke down the data, right? So I'm assuming, is that available somewhere for them to listen to anywhere, Nick?
Absolutely. SSIC online, go on there. I believe we put it up there because we've started doing our meetings online, and I think that's where it's being housed. I'll make sure that it is. If it's not, we'll put the link up of where you can do it for sure.
Perfect.
Where you can find it, but it should be on SSIC online. Yeah, that would be good. Not just St. Louis, but if you're outside of St. Louis, those are still the same things that you need to be looking at. Hopefully we got a big goose egg coming up through summer, and we have a mess to clean up that we can help people out and make some money. And brother, I'd like to see you in person. Let's go have a beer.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Trust me. I've been doing so many Zoom calls, sitting in this daggum chair. It's like, I'm ready to have a daggum beer. And I've had a beer. It's just not as fun by myself, man. Right?
Yeah.
So
you are a grandpa, saying doggone or dag nabbit, or what are you doing?
No, so I'm not a grandpa, bro. I'm just from Texas, man. Just good old, my Texas roots are coming out, man. I've been talking to my family through this thing, man. So it's, I look at you, you know what it is, Nick. I may sound like your grandpa, but looking at you and I see this big gray beard, it makes me feel like I'm talking to my grandpa. So maybe that's why it's coming out.
Yeah, and here's my coronavirus home haircut right here. I love it.
Nice and smooth.
Hey man, hey listen, maybe in 6 or 8 weeks, let's jump back on and maybe do an update, follow up, and see what's going on. I really appreciate your time. If someone is interested, and you should be very interested in Profit Drive or Driving for Dollars or REI Black Book in general, fantastic platform for business management for sure. One of the best leading CRMs on the market for real estate investors. If you are interested in what they do for sure, we'll put a link up on the screen for REI Black Book and for Profit Drive as well. And
here's what I'll do for your listeners, Nick. This is like, I know we didn't talk about this, but I'll do it for you. So we'll make sure that we get Lori the right link. We'll waive any setup fees or anything like that for any of your listeners right now, if they want to get started with REI Black Book. Okay. So I'll give you a special link that you can throw on this podcast.
100%. That is awesome. That is a huge value for people for sure. That's awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, trust me.
From our membership, thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things you could do right now, and is set up your systems. And I know it's probably a hurdle for some people to sign up, and it's literally $1,000 sign up fee, whatever. We will literally waive that. I know we didn't talk about it, but I will send you a special link for your users to do that.
Okay, well, that changes the game. So no, seriously, I'm saying thank you for all of the people that are going to enroll in that for sure, because that is a sincere thank you, because that's going to help and impact a lot of people here in St. Louis and people around listening to this podcast. That's awesome, man.
Absolutely, man.
Very good. So we'll make sure that's up there. And Damon, man, thanks for your time, and appreciate everything that you've done and our relationship over the years. I was there when you started, and I love to, we hold seminars and things like that, and we teach and train people and all that kind of stuff. And I look back at when I first started doing that, how horrible of a speaker I was and how badly I was a teacher. I mean, I loved it and I was passionate about it, and I tried to do it, and I did the best that I could. And I'm so much better now because I've done it a bunch of times. Holy smokes. But it was not nearly as bad as the first time you gave a presentation. REI Black Book. I was there that night, and I remember how bad that was. And you sold it like crazy. You did really well that night.
I will tell you, that was the first time I'd ever made. It was pretty crazy. We had 50 people sign up for $1,000 a piece that night, and it was probably the worst sales presentation I've ever done in my life. But there was still so much value and demand in the product. My ability to sell it is terrible, but the product was really good, so that's what pulled us through. But yeah, you were there, man. You were there. That was October 1st.
It wasn't that bad. I'm just jiving at you, but it just shows that if you want something bad enough and you're willing to change something and if you want something that you've never had before, you're willing to do something. You have to be willing to do something you've never done. You could tell you've never done that, but your passion and your enthusiasm for truly wanting to help people in their real estate business was there, and that's why it sold. You know, could it have been a little bit more polished? Absolutely, but
Oh yeah,
you got to try it first. You know. So, but I don't even know why I brought that up. I'm just, it's probably time to stop.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Dude, it was, I was going to say, because I mean, what people probably don't realize whenever they're watching this, and if they're still watching, they're like, man, these two guys are just, but at the end of the day, dude, we have known each other for a long time.
Right.
And probably, different relationship than probably most recognize that we have. And it comes out of that we've both been there when each of us was probably at our lowest points or just had this idea and it was not great. I mean, I was at some of your first REI Club meetings down there at the little lodge thing. What was it called?
It was a VFW hall.
Yeah, it was like bad. It was me and like three other dudes, and we were I was there for the beer. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this Nick guy, he's gonna talk about absorption rate. Okay, whatever. So, but yeah, man, we've been around the block together, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. Hey, great times. Thanks for your time here today, man. And you should be uber proud of what you've been able to accomplish since 2008, because you have impacted a tremendous amount of people and changed a lot of people's situations that chose to change their own situations, and was able to do that through REI Black Book and the connections and the support and everything that you put into that. So
I appreciate it, man, sincerely.
Yeah, guys, thanks for being a part of our latest installment for the REI RockStar Podcast. Thanks for our vendors and our support for people that make this happen. Stay safe out there, stay healthy, and focus on what you can change versus things that you cannot control. Thanks for being a part of this, man. Be safe.
Thanks.